Hey everyone and welcome back. So today what we're going to be doing is going through the pre-patch, the actual gameplay, and yeah, you'll actually see what you'll probably be able to play in, I assume, about a month. Overall, it's actually pretty cool. I think this is one of the cooler pre-expansion things they've done in quite some time. So all good stuff to get excited about. Two quick things. Thing number one, of course, we are hiring. You can check out the video about that or the link down below. So there's that, and also Patreon if you want a big bundle of loot, monk-themed stuff. Got some dragons, some art for your wall, you can check that out too. But with that said, okay, let's get into what's going on. So, the pre-patch is on PTR, and it is Scourge Invasion 2.0, combined with some quests that lead into the events of the Shadowlands expansion, and provide more than just a tease of what is actually to come. And there's even, in today's video, a little bit of a lore sort of teaser at the end, because something rather interesting is said by this Harbinger NPC. So, I think for many people, though, the question is going to be, is it worth subbing a month before Shadowlands drops to actually play this pre-expansion event, see what's up? So we're going to try and answer that today. Logging into the PTR was instant chaos, that much I can tell you. There's barely an NPC or player alive in Stormwind. The entire city was just totally swarmed with both player-controlled and NPC ghouls, and it was just completely littered with corpses. Which was kind of neat, actually. Now, once killed by a ghoul, or by letting a 60-second infection debuff tick down, you yourself become a ghoul. And when you're a ghoul, you've got a few abilities. So, you can recruit NPC ghouls, you can sprint at 100% speed, and you've got some attacks. And then, notably, you've got one that is a cast time self-destruct that infects everyone in a radius. And that's the one that's going to cause some real chaos for people, and it's that chaos that I look forward to, because chaos is fun. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun rampaging through towns and cities, killing and converting NPCs and unprepared players, and if chaos and grief is your calling, yeah, this event is for you. It's a zombie invasion, and it's in the game. Now, stuff like, sneaking up slowly in a group of players who maybe thought they were out of range, and then getting them all, with the big explosion spread thing, is very satisfying. It's very fun. Those people have then got 60 seconds to find a living Argent healer, or else they'll succumb, and they'll also become ghouls. Now, the thing is, whenever there's a big wave of ghouls, who do you think they're going to target first? Obviously, the healers. So yes, the Scourge, when they're under player control, are actually kind of smart. And the ghouls themselves actually do hit pretty hard. They've got lots of HP, so it really can be a proper fight between groups of ghouls and players. And really, it's got the potential to just get completely out of control, right? Come on, malicious players using the 60-second, period to, getting infected, and then getting on their mount, and then going somewhere that's uninfected, and then turning into a ghoul to infect there. It's all very chaotic. I mean, hell, even on PTR, Storm Shield on Ashran, somewhere you've probably not been to in a while, even that was overrun. Now, this does immediately hint at, there being some issues for people who just want to get some stuff done, right? Just trying to get on with their day. And in that case, tough luck. I mean, that kind of is what the event is. Now, it is being tempered, though, so according to Muffinus, who is one of the World of Warcraft developers over on Twitter, this is designed so that NPCs only infect players for a short time every couple of hours. So, basically, that means the thing should come in waves and not be all-encompassing. However, if infected players can then coordinate and extend that wave that was an issue led by NPCs, then, nothing other than other coordinated players can really stop them. And that was our experience in PTR. Sometimes Stormwind was full of corpses, but without ghouls. And other times, it basically just looked like Stratholme, which was kind of cool. So overall, this is a cool event. I love how it's just a set of mechanics that they've thrown into the MMO game world, and it's that sort of thing where, it's not driven by a game system, in a massive way. It's so player-driven. It really feels like this true MMO event. I really like that, and I did really love it in the pre-Wrath of the Lich King event that was very similar to this one. I love that stuff, and I think it's going to be really fun, especially on the role-playing realms, because, you know what? Credit to the RPers. I think they really know how to have a good time, and I think if they can have some, I don't mean that in a Goldshire basement way, but the thing is, if the role-players take an event and the systems naturally afforded to them by something like this, if they take that seriously, come on, we're going to see Scourge versus Argent faction wars naturally arise. I think that's going to be really cool. And the good news is that's just the invasion, because there's actual content going on for the pre-patch. And yes, it's with the Argent Crusade, who are back and are in Icecrown. Now, the way it works is you pick up a breadcrumb quest, and that sends you basically scouting in areas around your major city before heading to Icecrown to join the Argent Crusade once more. And the actual questing is, surprise, surprise, World of Warcraft questing. So yes, it's going to be killing some enemies, picking up some items, freeing some prisoners, things like that. Some of the quests are actually callbacks to the original Argent Crusade daily, so to some people that will be a very harrowing experience, to others will be nostalgic. For me, for some reason, I really enjoyed regrinding those same things again and again back in the day, so for me, nostalgic. Now, it's kind of satisfying, actually, I'd say, just kind of going back to this nostalgia way of doing these quests that are kind of like a callback in some instances, but having, your, number one, the squish, right? The number squish happening, having all your class changes is just kind of cool. Now, as an overall event, the way that this works is basically your usual multi-stage event, where more daily quests will open up to do on a daily basis as you finish the quests, and more will unlock with each week. And this is a situation where, there's the week 1 version of this, the week 2 version, the week 3 version, and it just sort of ratchets up and up and up, and as that happens, the story unfolds, and I guess we get closer to the true ramifications of what Sylvanas did, and eventually us being slurped into the maw. Now, I'll definitely say, the actual, sort of feel of Icecrown here when you're just sort of going about your business is kind of oppressive, and that's nice. There's even a new zone-wide chilling effect that ticks frost damage on you unless you are standing by bonfires that are marked in your map. And it doesn't really do that much, but I think it's a kind of cool little experiment that actually helps to make the zone feel a bit more dangerous, and that's one of the things historically I loved about Icecrown as a zone. If you didn't have a flying mount, you were boned. I thought that was a really cool design. But speaking of that, well, there's also the Frostworms. They are really cool, and they make the place feel really dangerous. We're used to elite dragons flying above us, but not really doing anything. But with this, Blizzard have made it so that they occasionally come down and blanket areas with a frost breath, which of course, if you're caught in that, well, yes, it's going to freeze you. But then they did something really nice. So GG Blizz, they've made it so that if you're a Death Knight, you can control the Frostworms, which does make a decent degree of sense, doesn't it? So Death Knights were flying around the zone with these Frostworms under their control, and they were just deleting mobs, which is kind of cool. And just any little times like that where, the classes can just do things that make sense for who they are. I understand how if you're going to be doing that in dungeons, and then you've got Mythic Plus and WoW's now an esport, and that's kind of tricky, to some, right? That's kind of tricky for design. But at least in open world design, I think the more the classes can do stuff like that, absolutely the better. So yes, with this, basically your situation is you got your dailies to do, and Icecrown feels a lot more alive, which is lovely to see. And it's also got old Wrath of the Lich King bosses that have been resurrected, and there's legions of Scourge being dispatched, during the dailies, and it's all quite thematic, I would say. But this is World of Warcraft. So you're probably wondering, what do I get? What do I get for doing these things? Well, that's not entirely in place right now, but there are placeholder bits of gear from Quartermasters. Those are item level 100, and they have the appearance of aspirant gear from BFA Season 1, but in gladiator colors. Now, I'm not actually sure what that gear is intended to look like. I mean, they do look quite nice, but yeah, is it placeholder? Is it not? We're not really sure, but I think suffice to say there will be item level 100 gear there. And of course, remember, the squish is something that happens, so item level 100 is going to be about normal Ny'alotha. Now, this gear is going to be purchased with Argent commendations, which we cannot currently get, but one does imagine they'll come from the dailies, which certainly would make a lot of sense. Now, there's also some Wrath of the Lich King inspired gear that actually drops from the bosses that spawn in around Icecrown, and you know what? It's a pretty nice little concept going into Shadowlands with some nostalgic Wrath gear on your character, but it's via rares, and in World of Warcraft, rares just always face the same problems. They're basically just meat walls that get killed before players have a chance to fly over to them and tag them. And I'd wonder, would it make sense if the spawns were actually called out in the zone maybe 2 to 3 minutes before they show up or something like that, so that they just wouldn't be instantly deleted? It's a bit weird, but yeah, there's that going on. It's your usual affair with the rares. Now, with these gear sources, it basically just means that between the vendor stuff and the stuff from the rares, chances are you'll have a normal Ny'alotha equivalent, at least in terms of item level character, in probably just a matter of a few days. You'll probably be able to get that pretty quickly. Now that's really perfect for characters who are leveling up in the pre-patch because, of course, the pre-patch is almost the ideal time to level up your character. Why? Well, because the Chromie Time system is in. You'll have the new level flow for the game, and it's way faster than the current one. So yeah, you're probably going to level up, go to Icecrown, do your stuff, and get your character in pretty decent shape for Shadowlands. Sadly, though, it does seem like the Icecrown stuff is only intended for level 50s. We made lower level characters. They did not receive the intro quest. Now, that would, I think, quash some hopes that people had over a power leveling setup that would exist to the degree of power of, say, the Legion pre-expansion event. And I think immediately that is a bit disappointing, but I think when you actually then think about it a bit more, it kind of isn't in some ways, or at least you can see how it makes sense. One of the things Blizzard's really trying to push is that they've revamped the leveling process of World of Warcraft. So you can level from 1 to 50, or well, I think it's from 10 to 50, in the bounds of one expansion. So you can just go and do Warlords of Draenor, and now your character is going to be level 50. And that overall process is a good bit faster. Like, yes, heirlooms no longer give you a flat experience bonus, but the thing is, if you've actually played Shadowlands beta and stuff, you don't need that XP bonus because your leveling truly is a good bit faster. So I think with that going on, Blizzard probably didn't want to undercut their efforts there by just giving everybody, you know, a full set of max level characters like they kind of almost did with the start of Legion with how much you could power level there. Now there is one other reward that's a bit strange, and that's Argent Dawn reputation. Yeah, enemies drop Scourge Stones, you might remember those, and yeah, you can hand them in for Argent rep. Not sure why. I mean, it's a direct callback that's kind of cute, and hey, might help you get some rep with the Argent Dawn, which I guess would be nice. But yeah, that's a little bit weird of a thing. Maybe there's just more in that system that Blizzard are going to eventually do. Maybe it would make more sense to be able to farm like commendations for the gear sets and the vendors, but yeah, whatever that is, maybe it's just not completely implemented yet. But overall, I'd say it's a pretty fun experience. Is it groundbreaking? Absolutely not. It's not, but it's a nice little way to ease into the Shadowlands systems, your class changes, and all that stuff, while having just a bit of final fun with your essences and your Azerite gear before you properly get into Shadowlands. And I think for a bunch of people, that's going to be good. I think it certainly is better than the BFA event, because the BFA event, it's just boring quests, really, and they weren't even that good as far as quests go. Blizzard really tried to ham them up, and they were just kind of disappointing. So that really sucked with BFA. With this one, though, we get a really cool system that's super thematic with the zombie invasion. I mean, that's just cool. And then we get a bunch of sort of daily things to do in Icecrown, as well as a storyline that unfolds over the weeks. So that's what's going on. Now, there is one last element to this that we are probably going to expand on a bit more later, and that is the lore reveals. So we basically learn that while the Scourge have been let loose, the forces around Icecrown are actually under the control of the Jailer's minions. And this is where we first meet one of his heralds. Basically, she drops some heavy stuff. She says, his power rising, his chains broken, the remaking has begun. And then another one is, the hour draws near when the banished one shall reclaim what is his. And then also, death comes from the soul, or for the soul, of this world. And she later says, death will be the only power that remains. Now, there's too much to get into with all of those, but I mean, the banished? Banished by who? That's certainly a big question. Why is he so interested in the world soul of Azeroth? Is there something special about it? You know, how was the Jailer betrayed? What's going on there? Certainly, the Jailer's motive is pretty clear, right? I mean, much how, like, Void wants to conquer all, Light probably wants to conquer all, the chaotic sort of Legion stuff was similar. Death just does want to be the only power that remains. And that really does mean, like, you know, who banished the Jailer? And also, what is he trying to reclaim? Was Azeroth actually his? What's going on there? We certainly have some ideas. We'll think about them a little bit more and hopefully present them to you in some vaguely coherent video in the future. So there you go. Pre-patch, you know, it really seems like it's shaping up to be a strong lead into Shadowlands. Blizzard are actually taking a pretty big risk by running the invasion, right? Because that is, like, definitely going to interrupt people's days. And I remember back in Wrath, people were really salty about that. Now, for me, I was like, nah, this is just cool. This is an MMO. I think it's pretty cool if just stuff goes down on a global scale in an MMO, and we actually use the fact that an MMO can be a sandbox to make it happen, right? I just think that stuff's really cool. So something like this invasion, yeah, it's going to be a bit inconvenient, but that's fine for me. I think it makes WoW feel like more of a living world, and really, I think stuff like that is what Azeroth needs more, so that it doesn't just feel like a sort of what would you say, very graphical and very inefficient main menu for a game like Destiny that's really just going off and doing instance things at endgame. I think the more stuff that goes on in Azeroth, the better. And certainly, if Illidan was, break glass in case of emergency number one, I'd say Wrath of the Lich King nostalgia is on a similar level. It worked for Legion, I have a feeling it'll work here, and that people will just be pretty hyped for going back into, getting their zombies and going back into Icecrown and doing some things. I think it's generally going to work out quite well. So there you go. That is the intro experience. Well, not intro experience, the pre-patch anyway, experience. At least the first 2 weeks of it. Who knows? Maybe week 3, which is not on the PTR yet, will have with it some crazy surprise. But yeah, that's what's going on. Is it something that's going to be worth you subscribing to the game, a month earlier than the expansion comes out to play? It's a personal question. I would say probably, because you're probably going to want to do some character leveling. You're probably going to want to see what's going on. I'd say it probably does make sense. So there you go. That's it for today's video. Of course, for the main things, if you want to support what we're doing and also get a big old bundle of loot, which is sort of like monk and like Eastern themed for this month in particular, so you can get your monk class pin as well as the bookmark and the art for your wall and all that lovely stuff. You can get that. And then also the job listing for our marketing lead that is also up. And by the way, to everyone who's applied, thank you. We're not looking through everything just yet. We need to work out what a more firm closing date is, but don't worry, you do have plenty of time there. So yeah, that's what's going on. If you want more updates on that, I think, we'll announce any sort of relevant dates or times, both on Twitter, probably via some sort of mass email to everyone at some stage, and also, in video content. So stay tuned, I guess. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. With that, I will see you next time.